This episode of the WP Minute is brought to you by Pressable. You know what the best hosting feels like? Nothing. No panic alerts. No mystery downtime. No, hey, is the site down? Slack messages. That's the Pressable experience. WordPress hosting so reliable you forget it's even there. We keep your site fast, secure, and up 100% of the time, so you can get back to building, selling, blogging, or binging cat videos. No judgment, whatever you want to do. Go to Pressable.com/WP Minute and try hosting that disappears in all the right ways. Pressable.com/WP Minute. Pressable.com/WP Minute. Thanks, Pressable, for supporting the show.
Welcome to another anticipated episode of Whose WordPress Agency Is This Anyway? Starring the legendary Kurt Von Annen and myself, Toby Crines.
Dude, I'm having so much fun with this.
I love the intro. Kurt, tell me a bit about these mercenary WordPress types and how to avoid them.
Actually, I have a coworker in the space that keeps using the term mercenary, and now it's become part of my language. Because we'll be talking to someone, and someone will be like, "Oh, I could help you with that custom page for $2,900." And we're like, "What a mercenary!" Holy crap! You shot high. It's just super, super interesting to me. And I've talked about this in like, let's say like you're in a post status agency, live Zoom or something like that. You get into maybe you're in a WordPress meetup on Zoom or something. And I'm thinking, it's like, how many times do you sign into one of these Zoom things and all of a sudden, the chat's going off and it's a private chat. And it's like, hey, if you ever need anybody for this, this, and this, keep me in mind. And you're like, why am I being sold in an agency group chat about other agencies? And then it's, hey, I'm promoting this. Hey, I'm promoting that. Hey, we've got this new product you should check out. And I'm like, this is totally like not the place to do that. Like, that's just in my thinking. Other people might be fine with it, right? Like, I'm thinking there's probably people listening right now. They're going, dang, that's a good idea. I should jump on some of these Zoom calls and sell in the chat. But then what I get to is those are also, I don't want to call them like the same people because they're not the same people, but it's like similar instances. I think of like a mercenary type is like, I think you and I started to talk about this, like, how do you know when to hire or when to fire, bring people on? And it's like, you hire somebody and things are going well. And you're like, oh, hey, I was going to do this meeting with the client. Do you want to take it instead? They take the meeting with the client, blah, blah, blah. You're like, hey, what are the notes on that meeting? And then you get ghosted. You don't hear anything. And then all of a sudden you find out your client is now working directly with the person you got under contract. And you're like, I went and sourced the client. I built the project. I proposed the project. I sold the project. And now I've lost the client to the person that was supposedly agreeing to work with me.
I see.
Right? Or it goes the other way because clients are feisty too. This has happened a lot. Now, I have a certificate in leadership and speaking, and I have a certain cadence in my speech patterns. I think people think I'm smarter than I am sometimes, Toby, just being honest.
I believe it.
So yeah. I have contracts.
People think you're very smart.
No. I mean, it's not fake humility. I'm being very realistic, right? I think sometimes a contract will hire us as the subcontractor, which I'm totally fine to do. I don't mind subcontracting. In fact, I actually kind of like it. I like when someone else is in charge of selling and getting the customers and negotiating, and all I got to do is execute. Like, I kind of like that. But then they're like, oh, could you jump on this meeting with the client? I do the meeting, and then I get the weird, like, the web form submission through Mañana No Mas that says, hey, what's the process on working with you directly instead of with so-and-so? And this has happened like 6 times in the last year for me. And so I'm like, these customers actually think they're going to cut out the middleman and save $1? Or do they just want to talk to me direct? Because here's the deal. I could just go to the contract and say, hey, your customer wants to deal with me directly. If you want me to take over this account, I will, but for an extra $500 or an extra $1,500 or for whatever. Like, I'll manage the client if you want me to, but I just want to be compensated for that management, because originally I was hired for tasks. It's a weird conversation, but like people and what's now I'm going to really take a risk on insulting people. I actually said to one of the clients, I said, that's unacceptable. That's an unacceptable model for us at Mañana No Mas. Based on our business ethics, we always retain a customer in the status at which we gain them. So if you're a customer of XYZ, in order for us to keep working with you, you have to remain a customer of XYZ, right? And they're like, well, what if we cancel that account and we come directly to you? I'm like, no, because you only found me through XYZ. So from a position of business ethics, I won't step out of that arrangement. And I know that other people will. And I just find it a very interesting conversation. Like, how do you future-proof your agency and grow your team when there's always that kind of like hidden fear in the background that you're giving these people on your team direct access to your clients, and it's very easy for them to say, oh, I can just cut out the middleman and make it myself.
Yeah. And I think it's even tougher when the client is asking for it. Like, 'cause, like that first thing is, it's situational ethics for whoever is there. Like if you're a contractor, can you steal the business? And then you go, let's say you can. You go, is that right? That's kind of the question, right? Is it right? And does it make sense for my business to steal the business? Another thing you brought up is kind of like these tough conversations. I have found it's not the tough is probably the wrong word, but just uncomfortable. And it could be something dumb like, I have to like ask for something I'm embarrassed to ask for. Or the harder one is like when I have to like have like a very thoughtful conversation. It's really like the thoughtful conversations for me that are tough, not to have them, but to plan for them. And like, so when someone maybe steps out of line in the sense that they're now trying to change the terms of the contract, maybe knowingly, maybe not knowingly, just through a request or whatever, going through a chain of command differently. Like you got to like slam the this is the hard part for me, is like you really have to slam the brakes, take an hour, examine all the contracts, examine the communication, be like, what's going on here? What are their intentions? What are we, and then you're like, now you have another hour of phone calls coming to sort it out. And still like you have other work to do. And this was just kind of like thrown at you by somebody.
Well, the reason it's on my mind so much is because Mañana No Mas moved to Kansas. We're doing well locally, regionally. We already have national business. So we feel pretty confident in what we do. But I think I told you before, like we are seriously, like we're already in conversations with the city and the community college and all this stuff. We want to launch like an apprentice program to teach younger graduates like, hey, how do you launch your own agency? Because the schools aren't saying, here's how you launch an agency and do business. They're saying, here's how you program stuff, right? Here's how you get ready for your next class in school. They're not saying, here's how you get ready to leave school and grow your own business. And so we're looking to launch this apprenticeship. And my idea is my particular region of the state, is a nice place to live. The quality of life is great, but the cost of living is super low and the internet's fast. So by all rights, this should naturally become a tech hub of like a bunch of agencies doing a bunch of work. Like it should just be that way. Like that's the way I see it. But then there's always that weirdness, like in order to do an apprentice program, we're going to have clients. So that client's going to belong to somebody, right? And then you have all these apprentices coming in and it's like, are the apprentices going to like get full of themselves and try and steal all the clients instead of going to get their own? Or like, how's that going to work?
Yeah. I'm dealing with a situation right now and it's pretty much what you said, but a different scenario where like there's an agency that is, their clients are bigger than mine. And they're asking me questions like, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? And they're people I've known for a long time because they want to, they basically, I don't know that they want my clients, but they currently sell other services and they want to sell web dev, which is what we do. And I'm like, if I start at what point when I start teaching you all this stuff, do you take my clients from me? And there's a real risk of that. It's tough, but I also want them to be successful and like,
Yeah, I really, there's a big part of me that really doesn't believe that anyone is stealing anybody's piece of the pie, right? I always think, hey, as an agency owner, it's my job to bake more pie. Like I just need to make more pie. There's enough work for everybody. But that said, sometimes it's easier to get the work that I've already got. I don't need someone coming and taking the work I've already, gotten. What you just said reminded me of, I'm a Lifter LMS expert, right? And so a really large agency, I'm not going to mention their name, was like, hey, we need help in describing Lifter's benefits on a live call to the client. And it was arranged for me to be the sales engineer on the call. So I think of being a sales engineer as I'm just there to answer functional questions about what the platform's going to do. Like that to me is where that's like, there's a line. But as the call develops, other people in the agency that maybe should have taken more of a leadership role in the call kept deferring questions and commentary to me. And I'm trying to be polite because now it's live. We're in front of the client, and I'm answering the questions and I'm being engaging and I'm being somewhat entertaining, right? Because I'm giving situations and stories to go with the answers. And a couple of times the client would say, well, how do you feel about maybe this for prerequisites, or how do you feel about this for quiz, scoring? And then I would say, like waiting for someone to answer. And they go, oh, Kurt, would you take that? Sure, I'll take that one too. But it was because I could feel on the call that there was a transition of trust from the people I was supposed to be helping to me. I didn't want that position of trust. They're not my client. I'm not. This isn't my role. My role was to be here to answer some questions about the product, not to put on a sales and marketing hat and run the call. And so it was a very strange situation, but I can see that happening a lot where like people aren't recognizing their roles. To me, it's the difference between doing something by accident and doing something on purpose, which is a very philosophical line of thought for me in everything I do. But if you did it on purpose, if you put that call together, if you ran that agency and you put that call together, you would have an agenda. You would do something on purpose. You would come into the call knowing like A, B, and C is going to happen. These are probably the top 10 questions they're going to ask on this call. I want to make sure everyone on this call has a pre-planned answer for these top 10 questions that might come up. Like there would be like some prep time. There would be something there. And instead it was more like, hey, we're just going to figure it out and see if we sell this contract by accident.
Yeah.
And that's a weird situation for me.
That's what it felt like, because it seems like a purposeful conversation. And by purposeful, I mean intentional on the sales teams. And they don't let the conversation land in your lap. They're like, that's not where we want the conversation to go. Like, we have a different place where it's going and we'll help it go there. And that's the talent and art of sales, I think.
Yeah. That whole... I'll just ask you, because I think this is kind of the direction we're going now. Thinking about your agency and where you're at now, I mean, you think you're doing pretty good, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
I love your humility. But I got to ask, like, did you fall into it? Or did you very purposefully go, you know what, I'm going to run a WordPress agency. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to execute in this way.
Very much fell into it when you frame it like that. Like, there's a correlated question of like, it's the question of, should we niche down? And like,
the riches are in the niches.
And that's one way to go. But like, I am the opposite of niching down, except that I do WordPress. WordPress is my niche, and maybe not WooCommerce if I can help it, Like, I was on a call yesterday with a local business that owns 2 physical retail stores that sells T-shirts and hats and pants and stuff. And they're on Shopify. And 5 years ago, I knew Shopify. We were probably like the most knowledgeable Shopify agency in the country at that point in time, because of the situation we were in. That was also by accident, by the way. But it was just like, we had to learn it for this client that was paying us a bunch of money. But that was 5 years ago when we ended the contract. And so I'm telling them, I'm like, God, I would love to help you. And I'm wise enough now to be like, I'm not going to help you. I'm sorry. Like, but I would love to, but it's just not a perfect fit. And so I think, like, when I think of by purpose or by accident, as I get wiser, there's, I don't know, more intention, but I wouldn't say like I'm super intentional about all sorts of stuff in the business, I am, however, this is like another frame of reference. Like, when I think of niching down, what that means, it means like to me, when not that frame, but like how I structure my business is not to niche down, but it's like, how do I spread out the risk amongst more clients, more customers? That's really how my business has been built over the last decade, is like, how do we do more customers concurrently? So if one leaves us or one industry shuts down, like during COVID, there were whole agencies that just disappeared because their clients were in let's say they were a place that needed to be in person, whatever that company does, like, they fired their agency. And these are event planners is the classic example during COVID. If you're an event planner, you probably did not exist after COVID as a business.
No, true that. I use the on purpose or by accident scenario when I'm teaching service writers in the service industry for automotive, motorcycle, marine. I'm like, hey, because I'll say you do this on accident or on purpose. And they're like, it's like a weird question. And I go, okay, let me rephrase it. When you were in third grade and the teacher said, what do you want to be when you grow up? How many of you said, I want to be a service advisor at a motorcycle dealership? And none of the hands go up. And then I say, well, you're all in this course to get better at it. So how many of you think you're already pretty good at being a service advisor? And, 80% of the hands will go up because that's what happens in a group dynamic, right? The 80-20 thing. And then I'll say, well, that's interesting because if you think you're good at it, but you did it by accident, how good would you be if you did it on purpose? And so as I'm creating this apprenticeship program and thinking about what would it be like to purposefully get out of school and launch your own agency, it changes the whole dynamic. Like I think about all the things I fell into as I launched my agency, by accident. Like naming it was the first thing. I went through 3 different name changes. I went through logo changes. I went through branding and style guide changes. I went through, like you described, changing whatever work it is that you actually want to do. Do I want to do startup retail? Do I want to do e-commerce? Do I want to do, blogging and feel-good sites? Like it's really interesting. And so this whole idea of doing things on purpose to me is a big, big deal.
Yeah. And this brings me to another question I've been asking myself. When you think about intentionally building a business, there are these systems that you can plug your business into. Yeah. One is called EOS. It's a very popular one. If you go to LinkedIn and search EOS implementer, you'll see 1,000 people in your existing network that are consultants for EOS. It's kind of like a Ponzi scheme, but I've done versions of it at the Mighty Mo, and it can be really helpful. And I could see a scenario. This is the trick. Like, I don't think it works for like people at the beginning stages because you need sales. The first question is, do you have any sales? But
where's the money?
But if you have sales and you're doing the work, then you can start adding systems. And that's like, EOS is a very purposeful way to think about your business. If you're not doing a system like that, there's probably a lot of accidents happening.
Yeah. The people that made Basecamp wrote some book, and I know the Colemans are into it. So Jason and Kim Coleman with Paid Memberships Pro, they tweaked a version of that, and that's how they grow. That's how they orchestrate changes and plans and strategies there and at Lifter LMS, because they have interest in Lifter LMS too. And so it's been interesting with my work at Lifter to see, wow, when someone comes in with, and this is not a shot against Chris is incredibly frontal cortex oriented, but to come in with like a plan, like a purposeful plan on this is how we're going to implement a process, this is how we're going to move things forward at a quicker pace because it's going to be on an agenda, right? It's going to have a sense of accountability and timelines. That's really cool. And so I'm all about process, sometimes I have a hard time buying into someone else's process. And I think that is the issue. Like, what do we call that? Sprints and runs and what were the agile?
Yeah. Sure.
Agile. I worked at a large corporation that was not agile. And the guy that ran the office, an office full of like 220 people at the time, literally was having coffee at a coffee shop and overheard 2 middle managers talking about the benefits of being agile. This guy came back to the office with over 200 people in it and had a group meeting and said, from this point on, we're going to be agile. And that's how this and this works. And I was like, this guy doesn't know what agile is. And then he started with like, well, you're going to do a stand-up meeting in your huddle, every morning, and you're going to this and you're going to that. And I'm like, you're adding a bunch of agile-like activities, but the culture of the business is still not agile.
Right.
And it's very, I have a very difficult time not being judgmental in those situations.
I think a lot of these systems, agile included to a degree, is like they try to like put metrics to everything.
Yeah.
And I think like I've talked to people who have been acquired and then they're jammed into a system like EOS or the one you're describing. And by the way, EOS sounds just like the one you described. It's probably a different Ponzi scheme type of situation, but like, not multi-level marketing. That's what it is, not Ponzi. They're selling a product, but they make money. The guy above them makes money. It's like that. But they get jammed into it, and similar where they're like, whoa, like this isn't working for us. And I always felt like with EOS, when we did it, we always did like our own flavor of it, because it was just like too heavy-handed for me. Like,
Yeah.
And I don't know. And I'm the boss, so I'm like, if it's too heavy-handed for me, that's all I need to know. Like,
if the boss can't follow it, they can't expect anyone else to.
mm-hmm.
And that was at that larger corporation. It was like the guy that was in charge of this whole thing was the one breaking all the rules at the top anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And at one hand you go, well, he's the boss, he can do whatever he wants, But on the other hand is, if you put something in place and you can't even follow your own rules, what makes you think anyone else is going to follow the rules for any length of time?
Right.
Just because you're giving people paychecks doesn't mean you're going to get, the to the letter of the law, like what you crack down on.
Yeah.
It's got to be an internal culture thing. It's got to be sold and believed.
Yeah. One thing I like that the Basecamp people do is they have 6-week, they call them something else, but it's like 6-week projects, and you have to launch in 6 weeks. That's the only like requirement. Whatever the thing you're working on, it's got to be done in 6 weeks. And so they use that as like the driver of building stuff. Like, oh, you have a cool idea for a future. Can it be built in 6 weeks? No. Well, then reshape that idea. Maybe it's still a similar idea, but a smaller one. And, and I kind of like that. It gives the people that are doing the work the power to design it in a way that makes sense, and then they have a deadline. And I kind of like that as like a less heavy-handed approach to like, so like, let's say you're I might even work, something like that might even work in your incubator there for like people who want to start agencies. Like, okay, where do you need to be, let's say 6 weeks from now? If you're starting a business, how much money do you have in the bank today? How long will that last? How many sales, how much money do you have to have come in the next month to make this work? Like, all right, how do we get that money? Where do we start?
That is so funny that you phrase it that way. I literally had a conversation today with somebody where I was like, I wanted to prove a point and work on my son's car and do it DIY. And the car should have been junked. It's a $500 car. So I put, about $2,500 worth of my labor into like rebuilding this car, timing belt, water pump, valve adjustment, the whole thing. And I'm mechanical. I can do those things. But at the end of that project, all that time had been spent, right? And I thought, if I had spent that time selling 3 more clients, I could have just bought the kid, a new used truck or a new used car, whatever. I could have said, hey, son, here's $10,000. Go buy a used car. It just the reality of like, you're trying to make a point. And it was a good point, right? Because it's for my kid. I want to show him, hey, if you do stuff on your own, if you're self-sufficient, you can save money, you can do these things. Like, all those values are there. But at the end of the day, when you're thinking about it by yourself, as an agency owner, you're like, why in the world am I out in the driveway rebuilding a Honda Civic when I could be selling another $12,000 website?
So that's a great point. And like, I'm going to push it back to the WordPress space, because I've talked to friends and colleagues over the years who want to start WordPress plugins to sell, that want to basically want to transition from a WordPress services to WordPress plugins. I'm like, I have that exact same thought process in my head. I'm like, okay, you're going to sell this plugin for $50 a year. What's your average project right now? Oh, $5,000. Okay. So that's 100 of these plugins. I think I got that math right. Is it going to be easier to sell one project or 100 plugins? And I'm like, for me, I don't know how to sell one plugin, so I'm just going to go sell a project. Because frankly, I would love to be a plugin company, but like, it's a whole different skill set.
On my timeline, my very near future timeline is going to be a product release. I'm going to enter the product market with a plugin. But my model is like, I'm an agency first. So very much to your methodology, it's like revenue first. Like, it'll be cool to have a product, but revenue first. I got to keep the agency floating. I got to keep things solvent, right? I got to keep things going. And then the idea, like, it's going to be a freemium model. So there's going to be a lot of people going to jump in for free. I'm not going to make any money off the stupid thing. and it's going to take time, just like my e-learning project that took years to launch. It's going to take time for people to use the product and go, you know what would make this product awesome? If it connected with LinkedIn, if it connected with this, and then we create those connections, they become premium features. And then that's what gets sold as the add-on to that, right? And that model works. I've seen it work for Lifter LMS, but Lifter's also got 11 years in the game,
Sure.
right? A couple thousand clients, a fair amount of premium users. And so you go, okay, well that I can see that where that works, but I don't see where in this economy you can launch a product or enter the product space without the safety net or the the crash pad of revenue from another source.
Yeah, I don't see it either. Not to say you couldn't get lucky, like with something. Somebody's going to get lucky. Sure, that's going to happen. But like in terms of designing a business around it, like it's, your odds are way better in the services space.
I'm going to take a risk and mention his name because I think he's great at what he does. Sometimes I don't like the way he communicates, but he's Kevin Geary, and his launch of Etch was pretty spectacular to watch. Because he had, I don't know if the numbers are right or not. Really hard to say on the numbers. To my knowledge, there was something like 800 or 1,000 people that bought into the pre-sale of Etch at $700 or $800, for that page builder, because you would get lifetime access to it. And I'm one of them. I was like fear of missing out. I was like, oh crap. Like I think, because I know Bricks is awesome. And then he's saying this is going to be better than Bricks. And he had other products. So he had ACSS and he had, frames, and those were fairly popular and reliable. And so everything said, okay, this Etch thing's going to be okay. I'm going to give it a shot. Now, newsflash, I'm trying to use Etch right now, and I feel like a baby in a crib. Like it is, the learning curve is huge for me. But when I look at his version of product space, I mean, he didn't even put the product out yet. And by all accounts, if you do quick math with who's on the Zoom call versus who paid $800, he's doing pretty good. That was revenue flush from the beginning. But then you have to walk that backwards and go, he's not some unknown dude launching a new plugin.
That's the thing. And let's take a step further back from there. How long did it take him to build said plugin, and where was he making his money during that time?
Yeah. And he did agency work and he did other stuff. So, I very much agree with you.
Something funded that plugin's development, and he didn't enter it ground zero. He had, you mentioned Bricks. That was a very popular thing for a while. Here's an example of, I have a friend of mine, there's a plugin he built, and this is his business, Shop, WP Shop, I think is what it's called. His name's Andrew. You can go wpshop.io. The plugin's called Shop WP. I'm guessing that domain was taken, but the URL is wpshop.io.
We always keep it simple.
Yeah. But I want to say 10 years ago, he came to me, he's like, hey, I have this idea for a plugin. Should I do it? I go, no. And I shared exactly what I just shared with you. I'll tell you, like, I don't think he would mind me saying, like, it hasn't been easy for him by any means to get to a point of, I think he might be the only employee or something close to that, but he's making a living on it. But it's taken, I mean, I don't know for sure, but years before. And I don't know his financial situation. I can't imagine that he wasn't being funded some other way. Maybe he has a spouse, or who knows. But like something was paying the bills. Maybe he was still consulting at that time. Something was paying the bills while he was going for it. And in my view, this is kind of a unicorny situation. It still took him 5 years to, I'm just guessing, but like based on what I would assume, like 5 years to profitability, let's say, to where he's like, okay, I can kind of make a living here. And we're not talking millions. We're just talking like, okay, I can pay for my mortgage and, food. And
then all it takes is for WordPress to make it part of core and like WordPress 9.6 or something, right?
Yeah.
And then like what happens? Like you're done.
Or, I mean, Shopify, WooCommerce, there was a solid business in JigoShop that WooCommerce forked. And that was the end of a business. They hired, some guy owned the JigoShop, the company developing it and selling it.
Yeah.
Somebody owned that. And that's the scenario you just talked about. Like, oh, now WordPress, Matt Mullenweg owns the e-commerce now. Sorry, he just like has your code base because that's the license. And he hired a bunch of your employees. And what are you going to do about it?
Mercenaries.
Yeah, mercenaries. That's right.
We're right back where we started.
Yep. I was hearing today too, like, ChatGPT, Mark whatever, the guy from Facebook,
Zuckerberg.
hired a bunch of their like brains, like their big brains away. It's just like, no, you work for Facebook now. And then apparently ChatGPT's like feature set has decreased noticeably since that point in time. And like Claude is now the leader, like there's all this.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe Facebook's working on something interesting. Who knows? But
I tried their llama and I was not impressed with the llama. I tried Claude recently and I was very impressed with Claude, but I got to say that Grok 4.0 is kicking butt, man. Grok 4.0 is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Speaking
is weird.
of AI,
I'm the guy that said AI was the devil 3 weeks ago.
Okay, that was one question. What's your fear level today? That was 3 weeks ago. That's a long time ago.
I have been and I said 3 weeks ago, I'm a hypocrite because I use AI almost every day myself. I was on a call yesterday with a client who shall remain nameless. And as we're talking about their website and plans for the next, what are the next 4 tasks we need to knock out over the next 2 weeks or whatever, he's like, oh yeah, I added ChatGPT to the site to automatically populate alt image text or something like that. That sounds harmless. It sounds harmless. But it's like, as a person that is supposed to being paid to develop their website in a pre-launch kind of quasi-launch situation, like they're in a soft launch testing, not really open to the market yet, right? They got a few students, not a lot of students. It's like, you just plugged in AI to your website? Like we didn't discuss this strategy beforehand. It's just weird to me that people that are not developers, that are not coders, that are not fully aware of what they're connecting to are connecting to things. Now, what'll be interesting is what happens because you've heard about where people connect AI to their websites and then the website gets overcrawled.
Yep.
And they end up with like a $10,000 server bill or something crazy. Like, I'm not even open to that conversation. I didn't put it in there. You put it in there. You took it upon yourself. I guess the good news is that we're the subcontractor on the project. So legally, I guess it's not even my concern. But the whole thing, that my fear level for AI is still pretty high, even though I leverage it myself in many occasions.
Yeah. I heard an analogy. This is somebody who's an optimist about AI, but the gist of it is, and there's probably some truth here as well. Like, he's like, remember when spreadsheets were invented and accountants thought they were all going to be out of jobs?
Yeah.
All it's done is made everybody really good at numbers, and it's driven more work to the accountants because like it's just like increased their value because now they have to be more experts. And
I am so sold out on the idea that it's gonna take time. It might be 2 years, it might be 3 years, it might be 5 years. People that become noted experts in their fields are going to be the gold at the end of the rainbow. Like, people are going to get so AI fatigued with regurgitated AI type answers that they're going to be like, screw this. I just need to talk to a human being that knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And then, so maybe 4 or 5 years from now, we're those geniuses that get to make the harvest then, but the harvest isn't now.
Well, and I think I was mentioning that client earlier that I spoke with, that they wanted me to fix their Shopify stuff. And really what they needed was like some like Shopify connection stuff to like TikTok. But then I dug deeper, and what they really need are sales. And the people that can make sales happen I don't think AI is going to be able to help with that. Like, you're still going to be in a dense forest of people trying to sell. Like,
the AI equation for sales to me is becoming very muddied. There's a bunch of these consultants saying, oh, well, SEO is dead. And then if you ask AI a question, like, what's the best pizza place in town, right? It'll tell you. It'll say this or this. It'll give you like 1 or 2 things. Whereas if you search pizza in town, you'd get 25 listings, right? And so everyone goes, well, SEO is dead. Just ask AI. It gives you the answer. Mm-hmm. But then if you go back and you ask AI, hey, thanks for the recommendation. How did you come up with that recommendation? The number one thing it lists is search engine results.
Right. Yeah.
So SEO is not dead, but now your SEO has to be geared towards that AI discovery, right? And then, so you have to be like AI discoverable, which is like what we're working on for Mañana No Mas right now. And it's taken months to improve our ranking with AI. Months and months and months.
Yeah.
And we keep chipping away at it, and we keep getting better and better. But for me to know that that's going to equate to sales and revenue downstream, it's the conversation you and I had last episode when you were like, hey, I do all this stuff, but a friend of mine owns an agency and he doesn't do anything and he's doing just fine.
Mm-hmm.
it's like that whole, did we sell ourselves a bag of nonsense, or do we really need to do all this work?
Well, and there's always going to be a need. Trust might be the commodity that is sold.
Yeah.
Because you can't trust AI for as far as you can throw it. And, with your bad knee, Ed, you shouldn't be throwing anything. And I was thinking about, if you go to the Mighty Mo, we have an article with Joe Dolson, who runs the WordPress accessibility project. And in that conversation, he talks about, because I was like, hey, can you guarantee that a site is accessible? He's like, I can, but only if the client has zero access to edit anything. And so therefore he has clients, I assume that he's like, yes, I will guarantee your site, but you can't touch it. Which is kind of, I don't know, maybe applicable to this AI thing. Like your guy who plugs AI into the site. Are you kidding me? At that point, it's kind of like, if anything happens, I can't be responsible.
I've had multiple clients, we'll have a support thing like Fluent Support. We use Fluent Support quite a bit. And by the way, at Mañana No Mas, we manually answer all of our support requests. I want to be super clear about that. Mm-hmm. But I have multiple clients saying, oh, is there a way to attach AI to this? And I'm like, so I immediately go to, well, let's take a look at the depth of your knowledge base, or what are you going to train it on? And they go, what do you mean? And I go, well, this is support for your business, for your brand. You don't want it pulling support answers from your competition's brand, right? That doesn't make any sense. Like, hey, I don't know how this Toyota works. And they go, oh, well, check out these features from Subaru. That doesn't make any sense. So you have to restrict what it's trained on. So then you need an unbelievable amount of content pre-existing to train it on to answer those support requests. And I have multiple clients like, well, I don't understand why I can't just plug that in and make it easy. And I'm like, my AI fatigue in these arenas is palpable. I actually catch myself sometimes. I go, okay, don't answer right away. Take a breath. Because it's bizarre.
Yeah. There's, I think, I work with small businesses, and I don't really see maybe I see zero real, public facing use case for AI for them. I could see a scenario where they're using AI to manage some business process stuff. Hey, we're going to use it to generate some text that we're going to then edit and use on the website. Or, I was talking with a company that's working on an internal customer relationship management system. I go, that makes sense. It can read all your emails. It can generate a list of to-dos for the day. That's kind of cool. But that's even probably a bigger company than most of the ones I work with that are just if I haven't had anyone ask actually, which is kind of interesting for that, but I can see that scenario. Hey, can you have AI do our support, a chat bot on the site? I would be like, just answer the phone.
Well, see, you're really hitting the key point there though. It's all perception. It's all perception. And we've mentioned this before, people assume big companies have all these things and they think they need all these things. And they don't realize that that's not reality. Someone goes, oh my God, we launched our course last week and we had 20 emails come in with questions. And so we need to automate these responses. And I'm like, if you're running a business that you think is going to create you a 6-figure income and you can't answer 20 emails in a week, you shouldn't be in business.
That's a good point. I also think these website chatbots,
people hate them.
They exist pretty much. Now I'm talking about, let's talk about apple.com. They have one. It's horrible. But horrible in the sense, you would get your answer way faster talking to someone. The whole point of that chatbot is to pad their bottom line. It's not to help you faster.
It's not to help you faster.
So if you're a small business, and I always think small businesses, you need to answer that phone and sell, because they're just going to find another company because they don't know you. They don't, if somebody's on your website, on your chatbot, you're in trouble.
In our business consulting lanes, when we talk to businesses, our patented line is you have to focus on the relationship over transactions. If you constantly focus on transactions, you won't build relationship, and then everything's gone. If you focus on relationship, the transactions happen naturally. You don't have to focus on the transaction anymore. And so, yeah, when you're a small business, I agree. Answer the phone, answer the email, have the Zoom to Zoom if you need to. Heck, I got a client right now, can't figure out how their Cloudflare connects to their URL. We've already done it twice, right? But now they're having issues again on another issue. So I'm like, hey, if you need to jump on a Zoom call and do this on a screen share for 20 minutes, we'll knock it out.
Well, another thing, this brings me to another thing I wanted to talk about today, which is upsells, because that happened to us just this week. I said, hey, your site's down. It's not a client of ours. They had contacted us, said your site, our site, something's broken on it. Like, yeah, it's down. Like, where are you hosted? We don't know. I don't know. And then we finally figured out it's GoDaddy. I go, okay, it looks like the DNS is pointed at Cloudflare. Do you have a Cloudflare account? We don't know. And so like what I ended up doing was upselling them, because I'm like, we can solve all these problems for you. And there will never be any of the, we'll never ask you this question if you just hire us to manage hosting and DNS and whatever. They ended up saying yes. They got the check today. And like, it's like, great. It was an easy upsell, really, because it was just like, we can solve this need for this amount of dollar. All these headaches will go away. And my question is kind of like, as you're building a project for someone, at what point and when do you, I imagine up front you're kind of talking about hosting and maybe hosting pricing, maintenance, but at what point do you re-engage those upsells if they're not ready to buy at the beginning because it's too early?
Well, we have a process, and I stole this process from Chris at Lifter LMS, so I got to give him credit. I used the 3-tiered pricing model in the proposal. So I have the good, better, best proposal, right? I have the good, which is this is the bare minimum to get you off the ground with what you're envisioning, right? Better is, hey, there's a couple of automations in here, or there's a couple of extra tools in here that make things a little cleaner, a little easier. Or maybe it's maybe good is we're going to build off of a templated starter website, and there is going to be a semi-custom, we can adjust the format for you or something like that, right? And then best is going to be, hey, this is going to come with the hosting. We'll provide the plugins. We'll do the maintenance on a monthly basis. We'll develop the website for you. You have so many hours of custom development factored in every month for special projects, like whatever, right? Like, so I have a, hey, this is for the guy that is worried about the budget. This is for the guy that's kind of in the middle and has some of their options open. And then here's as an agency, I'm shooting for the moon and I'm trying to make a home run, right? And it's amazing. Sometimes they just go, hey, I'll do that home run thing. Mm-hmm. But what happens more often than not is we'll have a meeting afterwards and they'll say, oh, I didn't realize that you could broker the plugins for us. Like, we thought we were going to have to manage that. If you could do that, that would be great. And I go, okay, we can manage that for you.
But when do you have that conversation?
When do I have it?
When in the process, yeah.
Usually after the proposal is sent. So the proposal gets sent with the 3 pricing options. They schedule a follow-up meeting to negotiate. That's what clients usually do. They want somewhere between the middle project. They want somewhere between level 2 and 3, but they really just want to pay somewhere between level 1 and 2.
Sure. So I guess specifically, I'm curious, do you lock them into a hosting contract, annual or monthly hosting contract at the beginning of the project?
Yeah. Yeah. Almost all of our websites now are on our hosting package. So if it's not on, like, I just turned down a job that was on GoDaddy 2 weeks ago. The lady was referred to me from Lifter LMS. She gets me on a Zoom call. I said, hey, let's talk about your project. And as we're talking about the project, she says it's on GoDaddy. She they finally got the website the way they want it, and they don't want to change the website. She's using a theme I never heard of. She's got a couple of custom fields in play that I've never, I'm not sure how they're set up. And then she's like, so I don't want to make any changes to this, or that. I don't want to change my hosting. I just need you on a very restricted budget to make my LMS portion of my website amazing. And I'm like, you don't get to demand amazing on the LMS side when your website sucks and you're adding all these tools to a hosting package that isn't going to be able to foot what you're anticipating, right? So it's like I think it's great for proof of concept stuff. I used Bluehost for like 16 years. I've used GoDaddy, and they're great for proof of concept or smaller projects. But when you put in a heavily dynamic plugin and then you try to add tons of concurrent traffic in there at the same time, those budget servers don't work. Like, you got to be on something more robust. And she made it very clear. She had no intentions of moving anything or changing anything or adjusting the theme or getting rid of Divi. I don't like to work with Divi either. And so I was like, this is not a good fit for us. Good luck in your quest. So when someone talks to us from a startup position, we offer the hosting. We offer the hosting with maintenance. We update all your plugins every month. We have a certain amount of plugins that we can offer because we have, unlimited sites, agency licensing to do that. So we go, hey, like, that's our deal with Lifter. So if you want a Lifter LMS website, and I'll do the hosting. I'll update your plugins every month. You don't have to worry about subscribing to Lifter because I'm carrying it for you, and I am your source for support. That means you don't get support from Lifter. You get support from Mañana No Mas, and that's part of your hosting package because we include the hosting and support.
That's interesting as an upsell.
And it keeps the recurring coming, right? So my goal is, let's say I sell a job. Let's say another agency wants to sell a Lifter LMS powered website for $22,000. And then I get a chance to bid on it and I get to see that bid. Sometimes that happens, right? And I go, 22 grand, woof. But then I look at it and go, hey, you know what? I can do that same job for 19.5, but we'll take care of the hosting and maintenance for you on a recurring basis on a monthly contract. It'll be $100 a month, or what do I want to say? It'll be $100 a month or $1,000 for the year if you pay annually, right? So we give them that discount. And then amazingly, they'll see that it went from 22 grand to 19.5. They're thrilled. They're like, oh, you got the job, but I'm going to make thousands of dollars on the back end through the hosting, the maintenance. And you know this as well as any other agency owner. Over the course of time, there's going to be things they want to change, update, move, whatever. And those are all going to be micro projects that are going to get quoted and approved and done.
Yep. I think one thing that I was reminded of as you're sharing all that is maybe for me, the thing that resonated most was the 3 options, because I've realized I haven't been, what I've been doing is like, and I'm trying to change this to the 3 option model. And this is just recent because like I was just getting so sick and tired of writing contracts. And I think we talked last week or the week before about the most recent contract I wrote up. I was like, I'm not even going to write a contract. They asked for a contract. I'm just going to send
an
3
email.
options. Yeah. Which option do you like? And so I ended up sending that, and I could see a scenario. And so like with those longer contracts, I always had hosting as a line item. And they're always like, I don't need hosting.
Yeah.
Like, of course, they just don't understand it. But like, if I just included it, that's interesting. And like option B or the silver or the gold, wherever you put it.
Well, trying to be an expert in everyone else's server is too exhausting.
Ugh, yeah.
So I used to have customers on Cloudways, on Bluehost, on GoDaddy, on all these things. And I got to be like, this is ridiculous. Like every time on Cloudways, I had to go in and play with the email add-on for them, right? Because no one can ever figure out how email works.
Yep.
And then when you take a look at the other platforms, it was like, oh, I got to increase PHP memory. I've got to increase. When you pick your own provider and you become a hosting reseller of whatever you pick, I don't care who you pick, WP Engine, Kinsta, whatever. You become an expert on that server and you become comfortable with the setup in that server. All your other problems are gone. Like, so now I have things I can do with what I've chosen as a server. I don't even give my clients access to that stuff. Like if I wanted to, I could have unlimited emails for their URL. I get this, I got that, I could do the other. And it's like, no, as an agency, I'm not entertaining that. As an agency, if you want to run your email, you can do that through Google Workspace or MX Route or whatever. I don't want to manage your email because when that goes south, it seems like the easiest thing in the world, but it's the most confusing thing to fix and it's most time consuming and ridiculous. So just add it to the DNS settings and let them port it wherever they want.
So this is an interesting, as we talk about upsells, I've been for years going back and forth. I don't sell email, but I've been debating it. I know agencies in town that do. And I think of that like $7 a month they're paying Google for 5 accounts. That's $35 a month. I'm like, it's kind of good money for doing nothing unless something goes horribly wrong, but that's the thing.
Horribly wrong.
When it goes horribly wrong, now you're an IT company and not a web dev company. And IT is a totally different beast.
Did you turn it off and turn it back on?
Yeah. What computer are you running? What software is installed? Like all of a sudden you're in like, but that thinking about if I were getting started today intentionally, maybe I'll do this. I don't know. I've been having conversations with a friend who's in the IT biz, and I'm like, there's some really good money to be made in IT. And by the way, AI won't touch it for a long, long time. AI makes it worse, makes it even more valuable. Maybe like
this. Every time you break a rule, it bites you in the back. I had a friend that became a client. They own a race team. They're great people. We put their website up. They had a couple of pre-existing email accounts, and I thought, I can do the email. I'll just make it easy for them. And I put it in, and I said, oh, here's your email, your password, blah, blah. Here's your settings. So here's the webmail. You can access it on the web anywhere, or you can port it to, your phone, your computer, whatever. I mean, it was months months, like once every 2-3 weeks. Oh, I still can't get email on my iPhone. And I'm like, why am I dealing with this? I didn't even charge for it. I was just, an easy add-on for a friend.
Right.
And it's like, and then even if I did charge $7 a month for it, I would have made $42 so far.
Yeah, sure.
And it would not have paid for that aggravation.
But where it pays is the scale. Like, because many small businesses have 10 email accounts. 10.
Yeah.
Now we're talking 10 times 7. Maybe you're charging $10 an account. But now it's $100 a month, let's say, and you pretty much are never touching it.
Yeah.
You're just collecting the check, except when something goes wrong. Or I shouldn't say that, because I also did IT for Lumi when I was there at Lumi Deodorant, and we were a fully remote company, and I was the CTO, so I did IT, managed that, and we used Gmail. It was still a huge headache. Yeah,
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of it. It's man, that is so interesting to think about. So agencies listening to us now, I mean, just listen to you and I. Like, Matt put us together on the show, and it seemed like we were pretty cohesive. It seemed like, oh, these guys are very similar. And then as we discuss things, it's amazing how separate we really are. Like, we do things completely different, but we each have a certain degree of success in the space. And so that's like it's super interesting, but it's also like optimistic, right? Like the optimism is, I can get into this game, I can start this game, and I can make something happen out of it. For me, it's always a way of figuring out, like, what are your strengths and what do you want to be purposeful about developing or selling?
Here's another, if I could advise these potential youths in your program as they're developing their agency, these young adults, I think this IT idea is what sparked this. Like, IT is boring, straightforward, and hard, and it requires a human on the phone, on the computer. Like, I hear all that. I go, that means it's expensive and you're not going to be fired. Like, I
still love that commercial. Okay, click on my computer. What is your computer doing on my computer? I love that commercial. I can see it. I think I have a real aversion to nonsense. It would drive me crazy. I just think about my wife and kids running around the house all the time telling me, my phone doesn't work. My phone doesn't work. My computer won't connect. Roku's not coming on.
That's the thing. Like, IT, more so than web dev, I think, IT requires a deep appreciation of customer support and like that sort of, don't want to say passion, but willingness to engage in customer support all day long. And your pricing reflects that engagement. And,
but the more you talk, I think about my own house. I don't have a smart house. I have an old house. I don't have a smart house, but I still have like 14 devices connected to my router. So yeah, maybe IT. And you know what? You could offer people like, hey, you could be on a retainer for $47 a month, and you will be here to answer your questions or whatever.
I'm thinking way more than, I mean, for business. Like, a lot of times this is, if like we can advise your IT, you're like, it's so in the IT space in a business situation, it's usually charged per seat, per computer. And so you can imagine even a small company has 20 computers, maybe if they have 5 or 10 employees, like you're like, that's per computer, that we're going to support. And maybe you're providing the computer. That's kind of even the deeper you get, you go, we'll rent you the computer, and then you're collecting a premium on that. And,
computers have become so cheap lately too. Scary cheap. It's like going to Walmart and looking for a TV.
I realized in town here, and I bet you it's in Hutchinson too, like, there's at least one company. I think there's more than one, because I was like, what is this? I was looking for a used Chromebook, and I found this website of a company in town that supplies schools with used Chromebooks. And I'm looking at it going, they're making millions of dollars off this.
They are making millions.
Wonderful idea for a business.
There's a used computer store in town. Won't name them. I looked in the window, and there was like this MacBook sitting there for like $1,200. And I was like, I could go to Best Buy in Wichita right now and buy a new one cheaper than that. Like, how are they selling these used products? But contracts with schools and government agencies and stuff. And it's like they're turning stuff over at like huge profits. It's crazy talk. So let's jump into partnerships then, right? That's a good idea to talk about partnerships. And then maybe we should think about wrapping up soon. I've had a really fun time talking to you today.
Yeah, same here. That's a change for you.
It's not.
What role do partnerships with other agencies play in your agency? Like, do you get business from other agencies?
I work so well with other agencies. It's easily 65% of our work, I bet. But I think it's the idea that when someone hires us as a subcontractor, I'm really upfront. Like, this is what it's going to cost, and this is when we'll have it done. And they know, like, from working with us over time, they just know it's always going to be on time, and I'm not going to come asking for more money. Like, it's just, and I think that's why we keep that going as well as we do. We might not be the cheapest source in the country to get something done through, but you know that your calendar is going to make sense, and that the budget's the budget, right? And like I said before, the dollar's the dollar. It doesn't matter what it is as long as the customer says yes.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter how expensive it is as long as the budget exists. Then it really comes down to the calendar and can we execute on time. So it's big for us. Partnerships are really big with us. Just like we were joking about the used computer store and the contract with the school. If they weren't in partnership with the school, they wouldn't be selling Chromebooks for $600. They'd be selling used Chromebooks for $175.
Right. Yep.
No. So yeah, I think the partnerships allow us to hold that training site I talked about a few episodes ago. I said it took me 5 years to make a real sale on that training site. And that sale is brokered through another company. So we're basically the subcontracted trainer in the power sports space. I am, per customer, I'm giving the training away. Almost feels like free, but we're training 10 customers at a time instead of one customer at a time. So overall, our revenue profile has elevated. So yeah, in that sense, sometimes the pricing model is harder. Sometimes the pricing model, you have to ask yourself, hey, is it worth it because I'm giving it away? But because of the volume in this situation, our revenue is still inflated. So it made sense.
It's interesting. Like, and is that a like a asynchronous course, like a video that they take kind of situation, or are you training?
It's blended. It's a blended one. So every 2 weeks I do a 90-minute session with the group. And so if you break that down over 3 months, I'm giving 9 hours of one-on-one labor away, right? So what is that 9 hours? But, I used to charge $44,000 for a dealership to go through a year's worth of training. Now we do it in 3 months with 6 90-minute sessions, and each dealership's only paying like $2,500. But if we do 10 of them at a time, that's $25,000, and we do a revenue split, and I'm only really putting 9 hours in.
Yeah. And my experience in Minneapolis, working with Minneapolis agencies, this isn't across the board, but usually they want you to work at a pretty, well, let's say usually they want to pay you $75 to $100 an hour for the labor. And we charge double that, more than double that per hour. And there's this thing in like the guitar industry. Like, let's say you're building acoustic guitars and you have let's say you're a small builder, but maybe you produced 1,000 guitars last year, and you have Costco comes to you. They're like, we need 900 guitars. And so you're building, but they're going to pay way less. They're going to do it at a discount. And so you're going to get like 60% of that or whatever. And you're like, so you're going to make like 60% of the revenue, and you're going to tie up your whole operations in this lower value work, but the work's guaranteed. This is the struggle I have with my experience collaborating, being a subcontractor with agencies.
Yeah.
Have you had to, adjust your pricing at all?
So when I have a consistent contractor with consistent work, we work for pennies on the dollar because it's consistent and it keeps our revenue kind of more flat. I very purposefully designed my overall business as multiple verticals. So I have the power sports training, the marine training, the web work through the agency, some public speaking and things like that. So I have all these verticals, and together all those verticals flatten out our earning curve so that the Von Annen family can live appropriately, right? So yeah, sometimes when we do the subcontracted work, it literally is like pennies on the dollar. That's where my frustration comes in as an agency owner, because I'll reach out to people, and again, I post status, whatever, like wherever you find these people, you reach out and you're like, hey, are you looking for some work? Because they'll post on X, hey, we're looking for work. And I go, oh, great. I hit them up. Hey, you looking for work? And they're like, yeah, but our rate is $96 an hour. And I'm like, $96 an hour for what? Like, I'm giving you the task. You didn't have to sell it. You didn't have to propose it. You didn't have to write a contract. You didn't need a statement of work. You didn't need to, you don't have to follow up with the customer. All you got to do is execute this project. Like, you should be able to execute that project for $35, $40 an hour. And people, when you say, oh, could you work for $40 an hour? They lose their minds. They're like, oh, that's such an insult. And it's like, I got a guy in Vietnam that'll do the whole job for $50. I'm just trying to be cool and keep money in the States.
Yeah.
That is really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've got people in Vietnam, Pakistan, Italy, France, Japan, Australia. And so I got people all over the world, you know, and I could say, oh, could you execute this for me? And more times than not, when they're offshore, they're so happy. They just go, absolutely, have it to you in 2 days. It'll be $50. And then when I try to do stuff in America, they're like, well, that's going to be $95 an hour. It's probably going to take me 7 hours. That's going to be $920. You know, it's like, whoa. Like, you're not the agency in this case. You are the provider in this case.
Mm-hmm.
So how much are you going to charge as a provider? And in a lot of cases, people in America aren't flexible that way, so they miss out on the work.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think part of it for me is like a lack of trust too. Like, 'cause I would lower my rate if I could trust that there would be X amount of hours per month or per week.
No shit.
But I live in constant fear that if I agree to that they're going to go somewhere else no matter what and get it done cheaper, and really cheaper. That's what they're after. Like, maybe.
So a lot of people are after cheaper, no doubt about it. A lot of people are after cheaper. But again, if you are hired and subcontracted and you deliver on time and under budget, there's no reason for them to go cheaper somewhere else again, because they're not going to find, we've already discussed, like, if the phone rings and you answer it, you're already in the top 3% of agencies out there.
Right.
You know, if an email comes in and you answer it the same day, you're already better than 9%, 92% of the other agencies out there.
Yeah.
So it's, if you're attentive to your business and you work on schedule and on time, on budget, they're not going to shop anywhere else. You just have to get that first 1 or 2 tasks done, executed, and reconciled, invoiced and paid for cleanly. And if that happens, Bob's your uncle. They're your client for life.
Yeah.
And if they try something cheaper, if they try going somewhere else, to me, I always say, don't worry about it. I had someone just the other day reach out to me. They were ghosted by a contractor and a client. So one of those where someone stole the other, and then both of them disappeared. Don't answer emails, don't answer phone calls, nothing, right? And he was really upset about it. And so he reaches out to me and he's like, yeah, I'm really upset. I've been ghosted, blah, blah, blah. And I had to say, wait a minute, hold on. When you get ghosted, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Human tendency is when you do something unethical, you are either embarrassed or ashamed or you feel guilty, like whatever. So you don't want to conversate or initiate contact with someone that you've offended. So if someone ghosts you, you didn't do anything wrong. Because if you did something wrong, human nature is they couldn't wait to send you a shitty email that says, oh, you blew it because you didn't treat me right and I went somewhere else.
Right.
Like, if it was your fault, you would get that communication. Mm-hmm. If it's their fault, they're just going to ghost you and disappear somewhere. And so I'm like, so if you got ghosted, rest assured, it wasn't your fault, right? They did something unethical. They did something that they're not happy about. They have a negative feeling that is all theirs. Don't make it yours. And then just move on. Mm-hmm. And then you know what? When they screw it all up and they realize they had the right choice the first time, they're going to come back. And guess what? Your prices are going to increase.
The classic. Thank you, Kurt. That's a great place to end, actually. And by the way, listener, if you've made it to this point, you're an hour in. Like and subscribe.
You're 92% better than the rest of the listeners.
If you're in a position to like and subscribe, it's free and it helps the algorithm, allegedly. And also, we're not being paid. However, Matt will give us a good pat on the back if we get likes on this. So help us out.
Some comments, some likes, maybe a couple of video testimonials.
Yeah. So thanks, everybody. This has been another episode of Whose WordPress Agency Is This Anyway? With Kurt Van Anen. I'm Toby Crines.
Thanks for listening to the WP Minute, part of the Matt Report Media Network. This episode wouldn't be possible without our amazing pillar sponsors, Pressable, Kinsta, GoDaddy, 20i, and Elementor. These brands are supporting WordPress media and helping us invest in your future as a WordPress professional. Our Foundation Plus sponsors like Hostinger, Big Scoots, Stellar WP, Personalized WP, Weglot, and PatchStack help us keep the lights on. Thanks to all of our members in the WP Minute Slack channel, which you can join too. Head on over to thewpminute.com/support to get access. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to hit the share button or tell a friend about this podcast. See you in the next one.